What do you do with an umbrella? Anything but put it over your head.
You kids? You look nice tonight, too.
Thank you.
Good evening. Welcome. Saturday night is all right for SportsCenter with Kenny Mayne. I'm Steve Levy. Highlights of the games people play. We have Stanley Cup playoff action. While the NBA playoffs had the day and night off, there was significant basketball news.
That's right. Frank Vogel is the new head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. Later, we'll ask our man Woj if he considers this sexy. It took the Lakers a month from the firing of Luke Walton, the official hiring of Frank Vogel. If you didn't hear much about him this past season, because he wasn't coaching. Vogel was the fifth and final candidate to be interviewed by the Lakers. And according to Adrian Wojnarowski, he's agreed to come on board for 3 years, a 3-year deal. So the Lakers will be Frank Vogel's third head coaching stop in the NBA. Reached the playoffs 5 times with the Pacers, 2 trips to the conference finals. He had to face LeBron James in Cleveland then. Vogel also spent a couple of seasons with the Magic, won just 54 games during his tenure there. All right, Woj joins us now for some perspective on all this. There are some observers who wouldn't call this the sexiest pick ever, but how did it get done?
Once the Lakers lost out on their top 2 choices, Kenny, Monty Williams and then Ty Lue, they went to a secondary list, and the influence of Kurt Rambis and even Phil Jackson really is felt in this Frank Vogel hiring. They flew him in on Thursday. By Saturday morning, he had an offer to be the Lakers coach with a stipulation that Jason Kidd would be part of his staff. Vogel talked with Jason Kidd, and they'll move forward together to lead this post-Luke Walton era.
Well, you mentioned Jason Kidd right there. He comes as part of the deal. It was compulsory. Does that immediately have him looking over his shoulder or down the bench? Because here's another guy who's coached in the league, and if things start slowly, they got a guy standing by to be the new man.
Well, that's going to be a challenge for Jason Kidd, and I think he's determined to show that he's going to be a loyal assistant coach. Certainly he has a relationship from his playing days with LeBron James. They were together in Team USA, played together. They were competitors for a very long time. And I know they've talked here in the last couple of days about this possibility. But Jason Kidd's going in to be an assistant coach. And Frank Vogel, who, while he had a difficult run in that rebuild in Orlando, had a very successful run as Indiana's head coach, certainly very well respected, especially on the defensive end. This isn't a Showtime glamour coach, but the Lakers, there were none in the market for the Lakers. They went with a coach in Frank Vogel who's had success in the league and now gets a chance to coach LeBron James and then a very young core in L.A. around him.
And who knows about free agency? This won't be the last time we talk about the Los Angeles Lakers. Thanks for joining us, Woj.
Thanks, Kenny.
All right, so Frank Vogel gets to work with LeBron James. It's been a bad experience working against him. Lost him 30 times as a head coach, including the playoffs. That's the third most by any head coach, with only Doc Rivers, Dwayne Casey having more. Vogel also eliminated from the playoffs 3 times by LeBron, tied for the most by any coach. But now they're on the same club.
Joined now by Stephen A. Smith. And Stephen A., I can't wait for this presser. How does Jeannie Buss sell to all of America that Frank Vogel was their top choice all along to run the Lakers show?
Well, first of all, she's not going to be able to sell it. That's number one. I mean, Frank Vogel is respected. Make no mistake about it. He coached 10 years in Indiana. 5 of the last 6 years, he made the postseason, including 4 straight years and 2 consecutive trips to the Eastern Conference Finals. The man can't coach, but it's not about that. He's not a name with sizzle, and we all get that. But here's the biggest reason she's not going to be able to sell him, because he's not expected to be the coach long-term for the Los Angeles Lakers. There's a reason why, whether it was Monty Williams, whether it was Ty Lue, or anybody else, the caveat was that you had to accept Jason Kidd on your squad as a developmental coach. It was incredibly imperative to the Los Angeles Lakers that this took place. So one would ask the question, well, why not just hire Jason Kidd as your head coach? Well, it's very, very simple. He has a relatively uncomfortable past. One involved domestic violence. Obviously, it ended up in a divorce. There was an entire driving while intoxicated charge that he had to deal with as well. Not to mention the fact that whether it was in Brooklyn or Milwaukee, he gave the impression that he wanted more than just head coaching responsibilities. He wanted to run the show. And so as a result of that, it was a struggle for him to get back into the league in a head coaching spot. They knew they couldn't sell him to the public in Los Angeles. They went the route of Frank Vogel. Why? Because he accepted 3 years at $5 million per year, as opposed to the 3 years, $6 million per year that Ty Lue was offered. So you're saving yourself $3 million there by choosing Frank Vogel, not to mention the fact if there's even a modicum of success that he does not have, Jason Kidd is in line to be the next head coach. He's already on your bench. Obviously, he can maturate himself to the situation, and that's the coach they wanted all along. Kurt Rambis wanted him as coach. Jeannie Buss and the rest of those staffs, they wanted him as coach. They knew they couldn't sell him to the public, but for right now, Frank Vogel is the safe pick with Jason Kidd on his bench. And you can expect Jason Kidd to be the next head coach for the Los Angeles Lakers within 2 years.
Steven, everything you said tells me that Frank Vogel really wanted this job, right? I mean, no coach, respected, as you said, as he is throughout the league, wants to be force-fed an assistant who now also has to be looking over his shoulder because Kidd will likely be the next guy. This is an incredibly difficult spot, I think, for Vogel that Ty Lue didn't want to deal with, evidently.
Well, it's not that difficult, and here's why. Excuse me, is it more difficult than unemployment? Because nobody was knocking on his door to hire him as a head coach. I can tell you that right now. Search the other 29 teams in the National Basketball Association. Nobody was looking for Frank Vogel to be the next head coach. That's not to disrespect him, because, again, he can coach, and he's accomplished some things. But the new regime that exists in the NBA, nobody was calling him. So here you have a situation, rather than appearing on Get Up with Mike Greenberg or somebody like that, you're ultimately coaching back in the NBA. You're making $5 million per year. I'm telling you right now, it's beautiful to work for ESPN. Make no mistake about it. But there isn't a guest alive that's getting paid $5 million per. That's what the Lakers are giving him. It's guaranteed at least over the first 2 years. So you're talking about $10 to $15 million. And then in the case of Jason Kidd, keep in mind, this is another reason why you know Jason Kidd is ultimately going to be the head coach. He's still owed almost $10 million by the Milwaukee Bucks. So why take a job with the Lakers as an assistant, which ain't going to be paying you that much unless there's some kind of wink-wink deal in place where you know you're not leaving money on the table to come and take an assistant's job that you really never wanted because you really want to be the head coach. You know you deserve to be the head coach, but there's no way in hell you're going to get the head coaching job until you get yourself back in the league and position yourself to ultimately land that kind of job. So that's the situation that's going on in LA. They'll sell you whatever they want to sell you, but that's why you have me on a Saturday.